Okay, I've come across this book called 225 Reasons Why I Believe the Earth is Flat by a man called Drake Shelton. It's available on Amazon for £3.68, which I am not about to pay because, as you will see, it's not worth that money at all. But I will be reading from the free sample that Amazon itself allows you to see. So this is completely publicly available information. Amazon.com or .co.uk allows you to read, so you can just read it. There's no problem here. First, we see a beautifully well justified table of contents here. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt here and just assume that there's a font issue, so that doesn't look so stupid. Then we have a quote from Edwin Hubble, who, basically just has this statement of the uniformity principle of cosmology, and who cares? It's just Hubble. Okay, introduction. Proverbs 21:30. There is no wisdom, nor understanding, nor counsel against Jehovah. I see. I don't care. The following work is devoted to my defense of the biblical flat earth cosmology. Before I begin, no comma, I must give credit to the people I've learned from and whose material you'll find contained in this work. First and foremost is Samuel Rowbotham, whose principal work, Zetetic Astronomy in the expanded 1881 edition, is the most essential work on this issue, no comma, and anyone that's wishing to engage the flat earth debate subject must read this work and cannot be taken seriously until he has done so. See, this is a nice little well poison. He just says, if you haven't read the expanded edition of Zetetic Astronomy, then you simply can't be taken seriously. Now, I would say that most flat earthers have not read this book either, and it doesn't matter, because what matters here is evidence, Drake. It doesn't matter how many books you've read, it matters, do we have the evidence to support our claims? That's all this is about. So let's have a look. I would also like to thank Eric DeBay, Brian Mullen, Robert Bassano, Jaron Campanella, Jeff from Zeticism.com, Joshua Poor, and though he is not a flat earther, Robert's and Jenner's defense of geocentrism also helped me immensely. But the man who taught me the most regarding the fatal problems at the heart of the scientific method is the late Professor Dr. Gordon H. Clark, head of the Department of Philosophy at Butler University. The issues regarding the scientific method are things I learned from Gordon Clark, but as Clark's work applies to the flat earth debate, I am breaking new ground here. Wow. I'm so confident that Clark was right about the inherent problems of the scientific method, I will make a prediction for the reader so he can take this prediction as a litmus test in years to come. The flat earth debate will continue to see neither model capable of conclusive proof. Well, obviously, because proof is not a thing that happens in the scientific method at all. There's no such thing as conclusive proof. That happens in philosophy, it happens in mathematics, but it does not happen in science. What happens is that we have a model, and this model is supported by evidence, or it's not supported by evidence. And if it is a predictive model that consistently gives the right results compared to what we see, then we can start trusting this model, and the good models are the ones that haven't failed yet. That is the Popperian sort of scientific angle to things. You're not going to get conclusive proof. A model cannot be proven. It is simply a contradiction of terms. So obviously, that is a really stupid prediction. The scientific and philosophical method of most Western people, induction, will continue to fail. No. Well, fail to prove, of course, because induction is not designed to prove, nor can it prove. So, again, you're just confusing yourself, but fine. An educated and rigorous, alleged free-thinking people will continue running into a dead end. Again, if you think that the end that you're trying to get to is a proof, then you're in the wrong field. Go do math, basically. The only method that will be able to establish a model will be the method used in this book, Biblical Revelation. Now, that's just ridiculous, of course. Biblical Revelation does not give models, certainly not scientific models. Yeah, whatever. I will use observation and experimentation not to inductively prove the biblical model, but to confirm that it's consistent with physical reality. Okay. But that's induction. But okay, whatever. If you confirm that it's consistent with physical reality, you are testing the model by using experimentation and observation. So welcome to the scientific method, my friend. Okay, chapter 1, motive and thesis. And then he has a screenshot from the earliest cosmologies, the universe is pictured in thought by the ancient something, by William something. It's a nice little screenshot from Google Books. And we have, for some reason, he's taken all that with, but I guess it's one way of giving a referral to somebody. I mean, the usual way is to have a footnote and sort of have a literature list at the back, but okay, I guess one way of doing it is doing that. Okay, fine. Anyway, this is the universe of the Hebrews, according to white somebody. Yeah, we've seen this before. I am not committed to a certain flat Earth map at this point, nor specific distances of the sun, moon, and stars, as these are not delineated in Scripture. Fine, whatever. The propositions defended in this work are the following. 1. That the earth that we walk upon and the oceans we sail upon are a plane of existence undergoing typographical variation, but are neither concave nor convex. Typographical variation. Typographical has something to do with the typeface when you type something. What he means is topographical, with T-O-P-O graphical, which is sort of like hills and valleys and stuff. So undergoing topographical variation would make sense to write, but again, he just has typos and he has no clue what he's writing, which is quite funny. He means that, and this is just a really overly fancy way of saying that he expects the Earth to be sort of flat, disregarding just hills and valleys and stuff, because everybody knows they exist, but there's no shape, general large-scale shape to the Earth or the oceans. Number 2, that the Earth is a terrarium, closed system environment, overlaid with a physically hard dome firmament structure. Okay, who cares what he calls it, a terrarium? But he says it's overlaid with a dome, which is overlaid with a physically hard dome structure, firmament structure. Okay, basically he's saying we're covered in, we have a roof, which is physically hard. Okay, that the sun, moon, and stars are within the firmament and circle above the plane of the Earth. Okay, so so that the sun, moon, and stars are inside. So this is like the flat Earth, and this is the dome. And then the sun, moon, and stars, just like this, basically, are inside this dome. Which, I mean, unless the dome is really, really high into the sky, that really does limit the height of the sun massively, because the radius of the Earth, it can't be huge. This distance from here to here, just given how much land we know we have, it's just going to limit the height of the sun a lot. Unless you still do a thing that says that, there's an ice ring somewhere and there's just lots of land we don't know about. But whatever. That's not observation, is it? Okay, number 4, that the waters below the firmament, as mentioned in Genesis 1, are the oceans and seas of the world, and that above the firmament are also waters. That there are waters below the earth is point 5. Okay, so he says that we know there's water on the earth. There's also waters above the firmament. There's waters below the firmament. So there's water everywhere in this model. Okay, point 6. That above the dome of the flat earth is the heavenly sanctuary, wherein dwells the concrete existence of the Creator, Jehovah Elohim, and at his right hand the Master Yeshua, having descended in the fullness of time to become man and returning again to the heavenly sanctuary at this resurrection and ascension. Okay, so basically it just says that over the dome God sits. Like, apparently it's a heavenly sanctuary wherein dwells the concrete existence. Okay, he expects God to be a physical form outside the dome. Like, that you could, in principle, if you had a good enough drill to get through the dome, you could drill your way through it and go and sort of shake hands with God. That's his theology, it seems. As it is written... Oh, do I have to read all this? I don't care about this. Okay, this is just... I should read it, otherwise somebody will say that I'm ignoring things. Okay, fine, Acts 1:1. The former treatise have I made, O Theophilus, that all that Yeshua began to do and teach, until the day in which he was taken up. After that, he through the Holy Ghost has given commandments unto the apostles whom he has chosen. Okay, so we have Jesus been taken up into heaven, and now he's using the Holy Ghost to communicate, to whom also he shewed himself alive after his passion by many infallible proofs. Oh, it seems like the author of Acts, who's that? Is that Luke? I can't remember. Has not understood the concept of the scientific method either. By many infallible proofs, having seen of them 40 days, and speaking of the things pertaining to the kingdom of Elohim, and being assembled together with them, commanded them that they should not depart from Jerusalem, but wait for the promise of the Father, which, saith he, ye have heard of me. For John truly baptized with water, but ye shall be baptized with the Holy Ghost not many days hence. When they therefore were come together, they asked of him, saying, Lord, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel? And he said unto them, It is not for you to know the times or the seasons which the Father hath put in his own power. Well, that's a dodge, but okay. But ye shall receive power after that the Holy Ghost is come upon you, and ye shall be witnesses unto me both in Jerusalem and in all Judea and in Samaria and unto the uttermost part of the earth. I like this. Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, which is just like 3 very small areas of Israel, and then rest of the earth. I think that's called the onion shell theory of socialization, where you sort of, the further away you get from your home, your house. You basically categorize. Who cares? I think those are quite sweet. Okay, here comes something that's bolded, so this is apparently important. And when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. And while they looked steadfastly towards heaven as he went up, behold, 2 white men stood by them in white apparel, which also said, Ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus, which is taken up from you into heaven, shall so come in like manner as ye have seen him go into heaven. Okay, so Jesus gets teleported up into the sky, gets sucked into a cloud, and people are staring into heaven, and then these 2 angel guys come and say, why are you looking into the sky? Just because, Jesus has been absorbed into a cloud. That happens all the time. Why do you look into it? And he'll come back the same way. That's what it says. Okay. There's something else we need to have a look at in Hebrews 9:11. But Messiah, being come a high priest of good things to come, by a greater and more perfect tabernacle, and the last 2 letters are not bolded for some reason, not made with hands, that is to say, not of this building, by greater and more perfect tabernacle. Okay, so this is again some kind of prediction of what's going to happen. Not made with hands, that is to say, not of this building, neither by the blood of goats and calves, of course, but by his own blood he entered in once into the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us. Okay, so this is just basically the sort of salvation narrative again. And almost all things are by law purged with blood. By the law. This is a terrible law. And without shedding of blood is no remission. See, this is just nonsense. This is not how our law works anymore, just pointing that out. It was therefore necessary that the pattern of things in the heavens should be purified with these, but the heavenly things themselves with better sacrifices than these. For Messiah is not entered into the holy places made with hands, which are the figures of the true, but into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of Elohim for us. Okay, I'm guessing the reason he just spams this as it is written stuff is really just to say that he's going to a physical place. He's just arguing that the Bible assumes that Jesus is in a physical place, which is fine. I mean, I would agree that the Bible was written with the story was that Jesus is just somewhere else now. That heaven is a physical place in the Bible. Sure. So what? Okay, my motive in creating this work, is to provide a proper biblical, political, and philosophical platform for flat earth believers. Well, that is certainly ambitious. Let's see what you do. The leading figures of the flat earth movement, have religious views and other political beliefs so ridiculous and erroneous and hostile to the Bible that I cannot leave this great works in the hands of these men. Wow, okay. Okay, for one thing, finally a comma, in the wrong place, but it's finally a comma. The leading figures of the flat earth movement have religious views and other political beliefs so ridiculous and erroneous and hostile to the Bible that I cannot leave this great work into the hands of these men. So, he's simply saying that they are so wrong, and he is so right, that he cannot leave this standing. That is a really, really dangerous thing to write in a book, because then whatever mistakes and errors he makes are going to be really obviously embarrassing to him. So let's see what happens. Now to the task at hand. 1. What I am proposing is suggestive of an international conspiracy so dark, and so grandiose in its scope, many people simply cannot even come to consider it, given the implications. So are you saying it's just so big that it's too scary to consider? Well, sure, if you have evidence for this conspiracy, then let's consider it. But, I mean, everyone can think of a conspiracy. Anyone can think of one that's grandiose and dark. Anyone. I mean, you could just say pretty much anything. You know, that, I don't know, that all of humanity has been conspiring for millennia to convince people that oranges are orange, but they're not. It's all paint. Whoa, so dark and grandiose. Oh, I can't even come consider it. I mean, it doesn't matter. Do you have evidence for this claim? However, I would remind such a reader that what I am saying is not something far removed from history, but is well known to it. History is replete with a record of the Roman Catholic Church doing everything it could, from lies, frauds, murder, and deception, to maintain and increase its political and financial power over Europe and the British Isles. Sure, the Roman Catholic Church has a terrible, terrible history of doing whatever it could to hold on to power. We get that. But the Roman Catholic Church having a huge influence was not really all that secret. I mean, when you look at how the Roman Catholic Church wielded its power, it wasn't doing it in the dark. It was just basically killing people openly if they didn't do what they wanted. You know, this is not an evil, dark, and secret conspiracy. you can't really. So when you say history is replete with this record, it's not really exemplifying what you want it to exemplify. You want an example of a huge secret conspiracy where people were too unaware to deal with it until later. I don't know. I don't buy that one. But anyway, who cares? Again, you need evidence for your current conspiracy. Just because there's been one before doesn't mean there is one now. So that's a fallacy, obviously. The famous donation of Constantine, which gave the Roman papacy authority over the Roman Empire, something far greater in extent than my conspiracy theory regarding NASA. No, I completely agree that is. I don't know what your conspiracy theory regarding NASA is yet, but if it's anything like usual flat Earth conspiracy theories regarding NASA, then this is not greater in extent. At least it's not greater in conspiracy and secret keeping and lying. Anyway, it was later found to be complete fraud by Roman Catholic scholar Lorenzo Valla. Possibly. I don't know enough about this. So I will look into it, but I don't even care. You just using this as an example. Again, it's an irrelevant point. If there has been a big conspiracy before, does that mean that your conspiracy now is right? No. Obviously not. So who cares? So your statement is just, this paragraph just simply says that there's a conspiracy, and you haven't done anything to prove it yet. Point 2. Martin Luther exposed the Roman Catholic Church during the Protestant Reformation for the selling of indulgences. This was a money racketeering scheme to sell certificates that the church demanded that people purchase so that their dead loved ones could be released from the mythological realm called purgatory. I have no problem with this point. It is a money racketeering scheme. So that's fine. Point 3. During the Reformation in England and the suppression of the religious houses in England and the reign of Henry VIII, such monasteries such as Hales Abbey and Sawley Abbey were exposed for their shameless lies and deceptions. The alleged bloods of saints venerated turns out to be duck's blood, fraudulent relics, and other gross superstitions and lies, etc. I don't know enough about this, but I'm sure that alleged bloods of saints have all kinds of, that's, of course. And again, who cares? These are old. This has nothing to do with the shape of the earth at all. Point 4. During the Reformation in Italy, as recorded by Francis Turretin in his Institutes of Eclectic Theology, whatever that is, it was found that many of the venerated caskets in the Catholic churches worshipped supposedly for house and the bones of dead saints were filled with cat carcasses. Fine, I believe that. It's not surprising. It might not be cat. I don't know. I don't care. Again, nothing to do with the shape of the earth. This book is called 225 Reasons Why I Believe the Earth is Flat. Let's point out. The fact that there are some, caskets filled with cat carcasses does not prove anything about the shape of the earth at all. This is just unfocused nonsense at this moment. Point 5. Supposedly the horrific Catholic Roman Inquisition was dismantled by the mid-1700s, yet we read in Popery and Jesuitism at Rome, 1852, by Luigi Descantes. Oh, please fix your typography. I mean, you use the word typographical. Please, just don't have that italicized. Can you just please proofread this thing? Ugh. By Luigi Descantes, page 126 DD, blah, 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 blah. Written by Henry, a young Jesuit seminarian in Rome, describing the exploration of the prisons of Inquisition in Rome. Glad you're right. The Roman Inquisition, fine. Burning people alive in private furnaces. That sounds pretty nasty. But again, this has nothing to do with the shape of the earth. What is your point up here? Your motive in creating this work is creating a political platform for the flat earth believers. So why are you having 5 points about just Catholic horrors? We all agree that the Catholic Church have done horrible things. We all agree this. This is not the point, and has nothing to do with the shape of the earth. God damn it. Okay. Our ancestors came here to America to escape the Roman Catholic and Anglican religions. I think that is a simplified view. I think there's a lot of reasons why people came to America. But fine, whatever. If you are an American, you are a conspiracy theorist. No. You believe that the institution that has represented Christianity in the world for over 1,000 years was a massive international conspiracy involving thousands of people engaged in massive frauds, deception, and conspiracy. No! There are lots and lots and lots of Roman Catholic Americans. There are lots and lots and lots of Anglican Americans. It is incorrect to say this is such a huge fallacy. Massive logical fail in this part. Because some people went to the US or went to America to escape the Roman Catholics, that means that everyone who is now an American is automatically a critic of the Catholic Church. That is gigantically wrong. It is even if we grant, and I don't, but even if we granted that everybody who came to America originally came to escape the Roman Catholic Church, does not mean that their ancestors somehow magically are affected by their sort of the children and the grandchildren and stuff are affected by the original ideas, right? That's not how it works. It's not like if you are a conspiracy theorist, then your kids automatically are conspiracy theorists as well. This is just foolish. Point 6 is the stupidest thing I've read in this book so far. Utterly nonsensical. If you are an American, you are a conspiracy theorist. That is, my God, it's just like saying some people went to Disneyland to get out of a birthday party. So therefore, if you've ever been to Disneyland, you hate birthdays. That's basically what you're saying. Or if anyone in your family actually has ever been to Disneyland, then you hate birthdays. That is the argument here. It is laughably bad. Okay. Point 7. You have come to grips with the fact that the Earth is a battlefield. What? No, I haven't. What are you talking about? Why are you talking to me directly? You have come to grips with the fact that the Earth is a battlefield. This is point 7 of his list, starting out the task at hand of him providing a proper biblical platform. So point 7 of him providing a proper biblical platform for flat Earth is you have come to grips with the fact that the Earth is a battlefield. It makes no sense. There's no idea of this. Okay, fine, let's have a look. And it is a battlefield primarily psychological. The US military openly recruits agents to infiltrate hostile regimes and psychologically manipulate them to the political benefit of the US government. I will refer the reader to the psychological operations unit of the US military. I maintain that the US Department of Education and NASA ipso facto military psychological operations. Fine. Okay, so of course US military has spy capabilities and it does lots of stuff, which is unethical. And if you look at it from a grander scale, all war is deeply unethical and it just seems really nasty. And all governments have really bad skeletons in the closet. Fine. And I guess if you look at the Earth as a battlefield in the sense that on the highest level, like on the country and the nation level, there are really no rules. All we have is the UN, and the UN doesn't really have much power. So, a country like Russia or a country like the US can do whatever they want, really. So in that sense, I guess the Earth is a battlefield, but whatever. His point is, his last thing that he maintains, and he's welcome to maintain it, but he has no evidence for it so far, that the US Department of Education is a military psychological operation. Just let that linger. I mean, he says that NASA is a military psychological operation as well. So what he's kind of hinting at here is that he thinks that or everything that's taught in schools and everything that NASA sort of provides for us is all designed to sort of keep us psychologically manipulated. See, this is where the big, scary conspiracy thing starts coming in, and this is very recognizable. This is typical flat Earth conspiracy talk, and typical, extremist conspiracy talk in the general. That the whole system is like built to sort of maintain the keeping the secrets away from people, and that is the way people like this explain why they have understandings of the world which are completely different to most people. Instead of sort of just accepting that they have misunderstood something, they will just blame the rest of the world for falling into the psychological trap of this massive machine which has been built, and only they are wise enough to sort of break out of it. It's a beautiful self-narrative, and it's ridiculous. I mean, Occam's razor is just weeping in the corner at this point, but fine. Okay, point 8. Atheists and many adherents of the heliocentric model are also avid conspiracy theorists. I'm sure some are, and some aren't. So what? Most atheists I know, completely contrary to the historical record, both Western and Jewish and modern academia. That's another grammatical fail. I'm going to stop commenting on grammar because there's just so many of them. Most atheists, with a capital A. Okay, stop. I said I wouldn't. I'll try and read through it. It's just, my God, he's trying to sound so smart, and it's just so badly proofread. It's just amazing. Anyway, most atheists I know, completely contrary to the historical record, both Western and Jewish and of modern academia, do not believe that Jesus even existed, and they claim, completely contrary to the hundreds of quotations of New Testament authors from the Old Testament showing the Jewish root of their teachings, that the New Testament is a Hebrew version of pagan myths. And there's even a reference. I wonder if I can see what that reference is. What will happen if I click here? Yes, nothing, sadly. Oh no, I've lost my place because I wanted to see it. Hold on. Ugh. It was so exciting. Zoom. Drake Shelton. Down we go again. Okay, so, but there was a footnote there, but I don't know what it is. But anyway, his point is that, most atheists believe that Jesus didn't even exist. I know that there is a belief that Jesus didn't exist. I would say it's probably a fringe view because the consensus among historians is that there was a historical Jesus. But what are atheists? They're not saying that he didn't exist, but they're saying that the New Testament version of Jesus, the magic one, the one that does miracles and like gets nailed to a cross and then just resurrects after 3 days and ascends to heaven, all that stuff, that guy didn't exist. That's what atheists are saying. They're not saying that there wasn't a guy who like provides these Q quotes from the Q source and all that kind of stuff. Somebody has said it, right? It's fine. And he's probably lived at the time and place and whatever. But all the magic stuff is what atheists would claim to be wrong, right? So completely contrary to the hundreds of quotations showing the Jewish teachings as a Hebrew version of pagan myths. I've never heard this. I've never heard that. I think I know what he's referring to. He's referring to the, sort of the zeitgeist thing, where there's this documentary in air quotes about how the Jesus was a sort of hashed myth of Mithras, which was an older Zoroastrian god, and it's wrong. It's not correct that it's a carbon copy of an older myth. That's just nonsense. And most atheists I know, at least, don't believe that Zeitgeist is a plausible documentary at all. It's completely full of errors. So who cares, really? Again, this is a question of who has the evidence and for what. And I would say that since there is literally no evidence for all Jesus' magic, unless you count the 4 Gospels, which are just 4 texts written by people after a while, which don't really add up and which have no corroboration anywhere. And I don't bring up Josephus and Tacitus and all these things. I mean, it's really, really weak foundation for anything. I mean, that's a completely different discussion, but there's a reason. I think there's a pretty good, intellectually honest reason to not accept the claims of the New Testament as being historically accurate. Let's just be fair. Okay. What does it say? It's truly an international conspiracy involving thousands of people, a network of lies. Indeed. Sure. But therefore, any dismissals of this information based on the incredulity of the viewer will also be dismissed for the reasons given above. Any dismissals of this information based on the incredulity of the viewer, I guess reader, will also be dismissed on the reasons given above. Okay, so if I don't believe your conspiracy theory, then you will just ignore me because you have decided that I also believe in conspiracy theories. Well, that's what we also call a nice little fallacy, isn't it? Because it is completely possible for 2 people to be in disagreement and one person to be right and the other person to be wrong. That kind of happens most of the time. But you seem to be saying that if 2 people disagree, then they can just dismiss each other's arguments. Okay. Well, if you want to play it by that, then I'm just going to dismiss everything you say. Because apparently that's a legal, non-fallacious way of arguing your point. I don't think you actually want that rule to be in play, because it's going to bite you. Anyway, I'm not going to play by that rule. I'm going to actually listen to what you have to say. So why, the viewer may ask, viewer, why am I a viewer? I'm a reader. Is this because flat earthers always communicate in YouTube videos, that they're sort of locked into this idea that there has to be a viewer? So why, the viewer may ask, why has the reality of the flat earth been suppressed and these alleged frauds of the moon landing, that's still nothing to do with the shape of the earth, but fine, and NASA's claims to have gone to space been erected? I'm choking on this. What is the point? What do these people have to gain by this? Well, that's not the question I'm asking. I'm not asking why has the reality of the flat earth been suppressed. I'm asking, do you have evidence for the reality of the flat earth? We haven't gotten there yet. You're just basically watering the ground and saying that, okay, I believe there's a huge conspiracy, and now you're already arguing about the justifications for this conspiracy without proving that it's there, which is this waste of time, but fine. Oh, he's not going to answer the question. Oh, he answers the questions in the first one, the next 1.9. Okay. First, we have to understand history and the nature of human societies and governments. That's a small task, isn't it? Understand history and the nature of human societies and governments. That's essentially impossible. But okay, let's see how he goes with this. Government are not mere abstract concepts. That's true. They are people with a history, beliefs, friends and enemies. Very true. And when given the power, groups that find other groups of people hostile to themselves will do whatever they can to eliminate those who are a threat to them. Very true indeed. That also goes for flat earthers, by the way. Has anyone ever been in a flat earth chat room? You'll get banned so fast if you don't believe the earth is flat. Okay. The secular governments that have come to power in the past 220 years, with the French Revolution, the American Civil War, the German Revolution, the Bolshevik Revolution, the Chinese revolutions, etc., all did so by the most unspeakable acts of invasion, rape, pillage, and murder the world has ever seen. I would say Genghis Khan's sort of conquering of Asia is probably a more unspeakable act of invasion, rape, pillage, and murder than the French Revolution was. In fact, I would argue that you cannot make the case otherwise. I mean, of course, the French Revolution was terrible. And in any revolution, there's a bunch of chaos, which is going to cause a lot of people to have horrible experiences. But come on now. The most unspeakable act of invasion that the world has ever seen... Wait, I need to sneeze. See, I'm not editing this, but I'm being open about not editing it. So I think it's fine. But I'm sure somebody's going to comment on the fact that I sneezed and therefore all my arguments are wrong. They've been suppressing this history in their state educational institutions as much as possible. Well, yeah, you will not be taught this in the public school. You kind of do get taught this in public school, actually. Maybe not in the US, I don't know. But where I come from, you do get taught about the sort of the polished, nice, glorified versions of history versus the real ones. Of course, all nations have a tendency to paint themselves as being more just than they were. You know, history of it is written by the victors. This is a cliche. This is not a secret. People know this. So what warring groups does American history tell us about? Let's have a look. Point 1 again. Until about 50 years ago, the predominant historical demographic in America has been the British and Northern European peoples who hold to the Protestant Reformation and the Holy Bible. That's presumably... I don't know. I haven't looked at the demographics, but at least it is the predominant in terms of power, at least. I don't know if it's purely demographically predominant as well, or even what predominant really means in this context, but sure, yes. And so I'll accept that it's been... the thing that's holding to the Protestant Reformation and the Holy Bible, yes, maybe. Again, fine. It's a claim. I'm not going to sort of just grant that. It seems like a sort of a self-glorifying claim a little bit. It is an understanding of reality, but it's not necessarily a true one. But we'll have a look. It's not important to me. It's not completely wrong either. Historically, these groups are the Baptists, the Presbyterians, and other smaller Protestant sects. The power of these men is grounded in the Bible. What does that mean? What does that mean? It means nothing. And their social structure developed from it, namely ethno-nationalism and male patriarchal supremacy. I see. Such men include Jonathan Edwards, don't know who that is, Robert Louis Dabney, don't know, Archibald Alexander, don't know, James Henley Thornwell, don't know, Charles Hodge, that rings a bell, but I don't know, and John Gresham Machen, I don't know. Okay, so whatever. The second group are those who hold to the Enlightenment and the scientific revolution under the leadership of the Jesuit order of the Roman Catholic Church. Wait. Under the leadership of the Jesuit order of the Roman Catholic Church. So you're claiming that there's a group of Americans, up until 50 years ago, in America, who was under the leadership of the Jesuit order of the Roman Catholic Church. Under the leadership, mind you. Not just affected by their ideas, not just being Catholic, but under the leadership of the Jesuit order. That is a massive claim. That is a massive claim. Unless you're saying that Enlightenment and the scientific revolution is under the leadership of the Jesuit order, which is just wrong. Obviously, the scientific revolution was not under the leadership of the Jesuit order. That's just nonsense. And the Enlightenment certainly wasn't. It might have been affected, who knows, but people who hold to the Enlightenment principles and who sort of allow the scientific revolution to affect their lives are not automatically under the leadership of the Jesuit order. That's the same kind of error as the Disneyland birthday thing again. Just because some people were Jesuits and held to the Enlightenment doesn't mean all people who hold to the Enlightenment are Jesuits. In fact, that's more like a sort of a logical fallacy there, but whatever. Obviously, atheistic ideology predated the Jesuit order, yes. However, with the persecution and suppression of the Jesuit order in the 1760s and 70s, ending with their formal suppression in 1773, pursuant to Dominic Ac Reptor Noster, the Jesuit order taught itself much like the Buddhist in the ancient world when they rebelled against the Hindu caste system, seeing it as an oppressive and tyrannical structure. What are you saying here? The persecution and suppression of the Jesuit order saw itself seeing it as an oppressive and tyrannical structure. What? There's something wrong with the sentence. There's no object in it. Okay, obviously, blah, blah, blah. However, with the persecution and suppression, the Jesuit order saw itself seeing it as an oppressive and tyrannical structure. This sentence means nothing. There's half of it missing somehow. The Jesuit order, being persecuted by the conservative Catholic brethren, decided to fight back. I see. We must understand that historically there have been two versions of religion in the world. Okay. The first regards the priests who remain in human civilization and are concerned with the temporal physical matters of human life. These concerns lead them to a more traditionalist, family-oriented, and hierarchical structure of philosophy. They regard the priests who remain in human civilization, and that leads them to a more traditional family. Why? Just because they're in human civilization, why would they become more traditionalist, family-oriented? That seems like you're claiming that sort of the right-wing, conservative American version of thought is the obviously right one. But as long as you remain in human civilization, you become traditionalist and family-oriented. That's not true. The second are the monks who abandon human civilization and retreat to monasteries to practice ascetic disciplines to further liberate themselves from the attachment to physical reality, primarily the concerns of the human family. This is accomplished through the vows of celibacy and poverty. These concerns lead them to a more anarcho-communist structure of philosophy. In his mind, in our author's delightful little mind, he seems to think that if you stay inside society, you will be right-wing, and if you run away and hide from reality, you become a communist. Okay, I'm not saying that anarcho-communists are reasonable people, because they're not, but this is a very, very grade school, kindergarten understanding of how anything works. These two groups of people do not like each other. Ooh. What a silly sentence. They do not like each other. This is just stated as some sort of deep insight. How sweet. Thus, with the French Revolution, fomented by Jesuit-trained Catholic priest Absies, the Jesuit order began to strike back against traditional religion and has continued to do so to this very day. As I've shown in my books, whatever books those are, the influential deists, atheists, and Freemasons of Western history have all been thoroughly influenced by the Jesuit order. The reason I question these books is just on Amazon, there's only one book, and it's this one. So I don't know which books he's referring to, and there are no references, so who knows what he's on about. Why would he not refer to his own books by name? That's so strange. Okay, whatever. So anyway, he's claiming that the French Revolution was started by one guy, which is hilarious. Like, a revolution does not start by one person. Just like one guy cannot just like trigger a huge political revolution. This is something that's been building up for ages. And if you look into the history of the French Revolution, it was unavoidable. Something was going to happen because there was a huge discrepancy between the rich and the poor and blah, 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 blah. Of course it's going to happen. So, whatever. He seems to claim that the French Revolution was started by a Jesuit priest. Or a Jesuit-trained Catholic priest. As I've shown in my books, the influential deists, atheists, and Freemasons of Western society have all been thoroughly influenced by the Jesuit order. That's, again, this idea that he just assumes that Jesuits made science, so therefore anybody who believes science is automatically a Jesuit, which is just nonsense. And to the point, Galileo's curriculum at the University of Pisa was sourced by the Jesuit Collegiate Romana, whatever. Thus, the primary power of these men is grounded in science, primarily the heliocentric cosmology and the mortal and sinful nature of man. Who's these men now? Which ones men are we talking about? Oh, that's the second group. Okay. Such men include Jesuit-trained Emmanuel Joseph Sayce, Jesuit-trained Galileo, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Paine, Abraham Lincoln, Alfred Kinsey, Jesuit Teilhard de Chardin, Jesuit John Lafarge Jr., Jesuit Georges Lemaitre, and Jesuit-trained Theodore Hesburgh. Okay, for one thing, I've heard of most of those names, so that's good. And I love the way how he's constantly just pointing out that they're all Jesuits. He didn't do that in the first one. And this one is just like la 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 names. He has nothing about their religious or political affiliations. They're just names. But here, it's very dishonest. It's very dishonest, but whatever. Having gained an extreme advantage with the victory of the North in the Civil War, the second group of men launched a threefold campaign. Hold on a second. Are you saying that the Civil War was primarily Jesuits versus family-oriented people? Because then I am laughing you out of town. But okay, whatever. The second group of men launched a threefold campaign during the 1960s. Okay, just a mere 100 years later. As deliberate attacks on the power of the first group. Okay. The civil rights movement, led by Jesuit John Lafarge Jr. and Theodore Hesburgh, attacked the first group's ethno-nationalism. Okay, so Wait, ethno-nationalism is this idea that the color of your ethnicity, the color of your skin, basically, or at least where where you come from in an ethnic sense, creates some kind of nationalist feeling around you, like sort of the Irish in the US have an ethno-nationalist flavor to them, and the Italians have another one, etc. So the civil rights movement attacks this nationalism, apparently. It doesn't. It only tells you that there are certain rights which you have to respect. You can be as ethno-nationalist as you want, you just don't get to oppress other ethno-nationalisms, because that would be a little bit silly, wouldn't it? Okay, the sexual revolution, which is apparently caused by Jesuits. This guy doesn't understand how sort of things that happen because of a sort of critical mass in opinion of all people happen. He seems to believe that revolutions happen because somebody is pulling the strings behind the scene. He has the Wizard of Oz kind of idea of how things happen. It's very naive and very sweet. But whatever. The sexual revolution led by Alfred Kinsey attacked the first group's male patriarchal supremacy. Alfred Kinsey is the guy who did these sexual studies and discovered like the human sexual nature, essentially. It was relatively controversial at the time, but the sexual revolution was not led by Alfred Kinsey. Grow up, dude. I mean, come on. Read some books. Okay. 3, the space program, led by Jesuit priest Georges Lemaitre. Okay, Georges Lemaitre is a priest, yes, and he was also an astronomer, and he was the first one to propose the Big Bang Theory. That's what he did. And he came up with sort of the math and showed that it could happen, and later it turned out that the evidence supports this. And he got to sort of name the Big Bang Theory. But to go from that to say that the space program is led by the Jesuit priest Georges Lemaitre is hilarious. It is utterly funny. I'm struggling to find a simple thing. It's like saying the guy who invented ping pong led the invention of the PlayStation 4 or something, because the first computer game was Pong, and the guy who invented ping pong, he therefore led the computer revolution. He didn't. The guy who invented ping pong did not lead the computer revolution, nor did the space program. Nor did George Lemaitre lead the space program. It's nonsense. And later Freemasons attack the flat earth cosmology of the Bible and the traditional church's Greek geocentrism. They attack it because it just doesn't link with reality. No, we have had no evidence of anything yet. This is all just him soapboxing about what he thinks the world looks like. There's no evidence, anything. So the reason the Jesuit priest and later Freemasons, and also a lot of just normal people, attack this flat earth cosmology is because it doesn't agree with reality. That's just why. They would attack the Bible and claiming to have reached the moon. No, they didn't attack the Bible by claiming to reach the moon. They reached the moon. Nobody cares what the Bible wants to happen in this case. We just went to the moon. It's not an attack on the Bible. My God, dude. And prove the Earth to be a spinning sphere. Well, again, proof is not something that you see in science, but all the predictions of the spinning sphere check out in reality. So yes, there is no reason not to believe that it is not a spinning sphere. Couched in an endless expanding universe, completely contradicting the creation account in the Holy Bible. Yes, and the traditional church's geocentrism. True, it is. The Holy Bible gets contradicted by reality. I'm so sorry, but it does. A lot. Okay, now having liberated the blacks, which come out of nowhere apparently, now having liberated the blacks and placed them in the public view, what are you talking about? What a way to put it. The morality of the first group would be eradicated by the pelvic thrusting gyrations of African culture. Oh my God, you sound like David J. Stewart now. This is fantastic. Okay. Let's just dive into this one. This is really, really funny. Okay, the first group. Let's remember what the first group was. The first group. This is such a mess. The first group is the predominantly historical. Okay, these are the sort of white Anglo-Saxons, right? The WASPs, the British and North European people who are sort of held to ethnic and male patriarchal supremacy and ethno-nationalism. Great. So what happened? This beautiful, strong, and let's remember that the traditional view of families is something that happens naturally to anyone who stays within civilization, and the only reason you think it's wrong is if you hide in a monastery and never have sex. That's what he said. But now, apparently the morality of the first group was eradicated by pelvic thrusting gyrations of African culture. So apparently this incredibly correct and incontrovertibly true morality of traditionalist families and ethno-nationalism can be deleted by somebody from Mali wiggling his bottom. I mean, come on now. For one thing, this sounds like something written by a guy who was 80 in the 60s. That's one thing. But the morality of the first group could be eradicated. The morality was eradicated. That's how feeble the morality apparently is. It can be eradicated by the pelvic thrusting gyrations of African culture. My God, I love this idea. I love this idea of sort of like white Anglo-Saxon Protestants sitting around a table and praying and feeling completely full, and then just in through the door walks somebody from Nigeria going boom, 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 and then all morality just is eradicated and they just start killing each other. How flimsy is your morality if you cannot deal with African culture? Seriously, dude. Come on, have a bit of self-respect. Jesus. Okay, the traditional art forms of the first group, classical and traditional folk, and bluegrass music and dance, would be replaced by the savage and immoral pelvic thrusting sex simulation culture of the blacks. Why do you think it gets replaced? It's better. It's more fun. Like, traditional folk and bluegrass music, sure, I mean, I guess it's fun to dance with, but it's just more interesting. People like it. That's why people buy the albums. Jesus. This is not anything to do with, like, some Jesuit plot. It's just because it sounds better. And not everybody likes pelvic thrusting sex simulation culture of the blacks, by the way, to put it in a nice way. Some people still like bluegrass, you know. Oh, it's so funny. Okay. That is the best I've read so far. It is an amazing book. Okay, so having destroyed the authority of the Bible ever since 1865 with the condemnation of the Bible's slavery institution and the establishment of the secular public school... Okay, wait, I think I read over that. That's quite a stunning statement, actually. Having destroyed the authority of the Bible ever since 1865 with the condemnation of the Bible's slavery institution. So he's saying that the end of the Civil War in 1865, which abolished slavery, was a destruction of the authority of the Bible. And I mean, sure, the Bible endorses slavery, and sure, Jesus never really says much about owning slaves as being a bad thing, which is kind of weird. But really, it's like, you're in 2016, 17, you're writing this, and you still think that slavery was a good thing and was biblically true, and it's a loss. It's kind of a freaky thing to say, dude. I think you should be slightly ashamed here, but okay. Fine. And the establishment of the secular public school, which means that a school which is not based in one religious text. I'm sure that the author would disagree with Islamic schools in the US. So why does he not disagree with biblical schools? Of course, because he thinks the Bible is true and the Quran is false, but that is his problem. The secular public school has the wonderful benefit of being unaffected by a religion. That's the point of it. Anyway, so he's saying that now the Bible has been destroyed because it's not allowed to be taught as the only fact. Again, if the authority of the Bible were so immutable, how can you destroy it so easily? Right? It seems a little bit weird, doesn't it? If the Bible was so obviously true, how is it so easy to just walk away from it? Okay, and then with the moon landing hoax, of course he thinks it's a hoax, the work of the Kinsey Institute, this is the thing with the sex again, would then commence to destroy the family-centered law system of America. Oh, really? The work of the Kinsey Institute would then commence to destroy the family-centered law system of America. Did you know this? Did you know that the family-centered law system of America was destroyed by the Kinsey Institute? No, it wasn't. It just wasn't. That is just a blatant lie. Okay, and usher in the darkest era of sexual debauchery, rape, molestation, pedophilia, sex slavery, and infidelity possibly to ever exist in world history, thus destroying the social structure of the first group. Holy moly! So the morality was destroyed by pelvic thrusting, and the social structure was destroyed by a concerted effort, apparently, to destroy family-centered law and enter into a dark era of horrible sex. This is just not true. This is a completely batshit understanding of what has happened. Anyway, he has no evidence for this, so I can ignore it completely. But my God, this is nonsense. And again, I might point out, I'm almost an hour into this book. There's been nothing to prove the Earth is flat. This is a book that's supposed to be called 225 Reasons Why I Believe the Earth is Flat. There's been nothing. He's talked about sort of cat carcasses in tombs and pelvic thrusting, and a complete lack of understanding of how human beings make decisions and how revolutions happen. And if you are an American, then you are a conspiracy theorist. That's what he said so far. It's utter garbage, this book. Okay, let's have a look. Having established the heliocentric model as the standard model of the universe in modern universities, well, of course, because it comports to reality, duh. The second group, oh, I see. So we are the anarcho-communist people. What that's the second group? I forgot. This is really confusing. Yes, those are the second group of the people who accept science, basically. Okay, I'll accept that. But also, imagine, it's impossible in this guy's world to have a person who accepts science and the scientific method, but is also a traditional family guy. It just can't happen to him. It's either one or the other. He's just completely, in a massively fallacious way, divided humanity into two groups, which is just, again, kindergarten logic. So, whatever. Okay, the second group of men were now in a complete position of supremacy, as no Bible-believing man could be made compatible to the educational system needed to gain high-paying jobs necessary for a traditional family. Oh, really? Is that why basically all American presidents have been both rich and Bible-believing? Is that why? Oh, I guess you're doing a no true Scotsman fallacy here and saying that a Bible-believing man has to be a person who believes exactly what you believe about the Bible, which is clearly nuts. So anybody else who believes the Bible in a different way is just wrong, and therefore, in the first group of tiny and completely crushed, whatever. So now it's impossible, apparently, to this guy that no Bible-believing man can be made compatible to the educational system. Okay, whatever, dude. I mean, I'm sure if you want to believe the Bible as it was written 2,000 years ago, completely the same way it was done there, then of course not, because the educational system has moved on. We've learned things since then. And if you want to ignore 2,000 years of progress, then be my guest. But of course, you're not going to be welcome into society in the same way that people who actually listen will be. Okay, so the second group of men, now in complete control of Western society, completely enfranchised and liberated from the responsibilities of the traditional family. Again, a lot of these people do have families, and they were faithful. Guess what? Anyway, would enjoy an orgy of wealth, drugs, and endless supplies of easily manipulated young girls, now liberated from the control of their fathers. Oh, I see. What a catastrophe that young women were suddenly allowed to have their own choices instead of their fathers making all the decisions for them. Oh, you nutcase. In essence, finally, Flat Earth is coming up here. In essence, the Flat Earth versus Globe Earth debate is about one issue. Yes, it's about what shape the Earth is. Oh no, apparently it's whose social structure will rule the day. Oh my God, that is not what it is in essence. In essence, it's about the shape of the Earth. You could say that the underlying cause of this discussion is because it's a fight between social structures. I would say that the underlying cause of this is a fight between people who have no scientific education and who find themselves disenfranchised by a world which they don't understand, and therefore they find themselves drawn to a conspiracy theory which gives them the answers that the science they don't understand cannot give them, and that's why they fall into the globe Earth, the flat Earth, trap. That's how I would say it. You'd say something else, but both of those things are not what the essence are about. In essence, they're about the shape of the Earth, and that is determined by evidence, of which you've provided nothing so far. If the flat Earth is true, then the patriarchal, family-oriented social structure of the Bible will rule. No. No. Just because the flat Earth is true does not mean the Bible will rule. The shape of the Earth, just because the Bible, apparently, I mean, you could read the Bible to read it as a flat Earth book. I know Rob Skiba's always being like, oh, the Bible is a flat Earth book. But sure, but most Christians who read the Bible are not flat Earthers. So it's a fringe view at best that the Bible is a flat Earth book. So you cannot say, just because the flat Earth is true, that automatically means that the Bible will rule. It's nonsense. It's just, again, yet another massive logical fallacy in your part. Okay, with the Bible people men as the primary beneficiaries because the flat Earth model shows explicit evidence of a creator. Sure, that I will agree with. If there is a flat Earth model, it's very, very, very difficult to ignore some kind of creation event if the Earth looked the way you described it. I don't know how something like that could arise naturally. The heliocentric model arises naturally, easily. You just follow the natural laws and then you get them. But the flat Earth does not. So I will accept that claim that the flat Earth model, if it were representative of reality, it would show explicit evidence of a creator, yes. The entire model shows that this is a special creation made specifically for us. Well, no, it doesn't show that. It shows... It's not specific for us. Us as in who? Humans? No. Why would it show that? Why? Who knows? Maybe this God who created the world is a bacteria. And creating it for bacteria, and we're just like transportation devices for his chosen bacteria. You don't know it's for us humans. That's still a fallacy. It is a terrarium designed by our creator for man, his special creation. No, see, that's in the Bible. You cannot conclude that based on the shape of the Earth at all. But if heliocentrism is true, then nothing is true. Ooh, that's a nice little self-defeating statement, isn't it? If heliocentrism is true, then nothing is true. Therefore, heliocentrism is not true, and therefore you cannot conclude that nothing is true, and on we go into a nice little logical vortex because you can't think straight. Okay, his claim is, if heliocentrism is true, then nothing is true. Sigh. What you're really saying is, if heliocentrism is true, then your particular reading of the Bible is incorrect, and you don't like that. That's what you're saying. There is no creator of the heliocentric model. There could be. Again, most creationists are not flat earthers. You could easily deal with a creator concept within the heliocentric model. It is not needed, but you can still add it. It is an eternal pantheistic. Whatever. Who cares about that term? It's not. You don't need to use that term at all. Nobody is required to regard the universe as a god. You can just look at it as existence. It is an eternal pantheistic, mechanistic development of physical laws made possible by the world soul of Neoplatonism. Not a special creation. Let's just stop here. The world soul of Neoplatonism is one way, I suppose, you can define that, but you really don't need to reach that deep into philosophy. You can just simply say, yes, we observe that physical laws happen. We see that gravity exists, we see that electromagnetism exists, we see that the nuclear forces exist, and we understand how they work, and by looking at what goes on when matter interacts with each other with these laws, we get the universe, which looks like the universe we have. So what's the point? Right? There's no point in invoking any creator. That is the problem, I suppose, that creationists have, is that the scientific model is working quite well without any creator doing any work for us. So it's nothing to do with Neoplatonism as such, it's just evidence, again. Thus, no one has the right to tell someone else what to do. And thus, the women are free to have sex with whoever they want, regardless of their father's wishes. This is such a huge leap! My God! Okay, if heliocentrism is true, then fathers cannot control what their daughters do. That is, he strings that together like some sort of logical syllogism. Oh my Lord. Look, we have a culture. That culture decides how we act. And we have, some cultures are very paternally controlled still, and you can easily conceive of a paternally controlled society which has nothing to do with religion and has nothing to do with the shape of the earth. Come on now. It's not like, can you imagine the discussion over the dinner table where the daughter's like, Dad, I want to go out and have sex with my boyfriend. And the dad says, no, I will not allow it. You're my daughter, you'll do what I say. And the daughter says, no, because the earth is round and the sun is at the center of our solar system. And the father's just like, oh my God, she got me. I have nothing. I cannot control her now. Oh my God. So dumb. Okay. No strings attached, no family responsibilities necessary. No. I guess it's true. You don't have any necessary family responsibilities as a human being. Of course, if you have a family, you have responsibilities to them. Are they bound into the fabric of the universe itself? No. But we still have a society, and we still have reasons to behave which are not completely forced upon us. You seem to think that unless a creator God is telling you to be a good person, you just don't want to be one. That's on you. I don't need a creator God to tell me to be a good person for me to be one. If you really need that, then thank God you believe in one, I guess, but I don't. A relationship with a woman and sex then become divorced from family structure and civilization. a relationship with a woman and sex, then become divorced from family structure and civilization, thus losing its high price and becomes a cheap commodity easily gained from easily manipulated young girls, with the atheist savage men being the primary beneficiaries. There's shades of incel stuff in this, which is kind of scary. It's like, I'm not getting part of this sort of easily gain manipulated sex from young stupid girls, and I just, how dare they. It's like, if you really consider girls to be this mindless that they'll just get laid without them knowing what's going on and you can just take it from them, then you really need to update your understanding of how women work. Seriously. That is not at all. This is just a really sort of shitty way of regarding humans and women in particular. It's just false. There's a reason why girls probably don't want to have sex with you, to be honest. If you talk like this to them, they will consider themselves definitely not attracted to you, because just stop treating people as if they're some kind of mechanized system that just they've just been fooled by Jesuits. I don't know. I'm getting off track. I'm just getting frustrated by this idiotic concept that fathers have to control their daughters, because if they don't, then society collapses. Just grow up. Well, the world has moved on from there, thankfully. This isn't my theory, folks. Okay. Major atheist talking heads, with no sources, mention this frequently in their apologetical efforts to further supplant the Bible and its influence in society. You can see Bill Maher, in his influence review of the Russell Crowe movie Noah, doing this exact thing. Okay, well, any references, any sources, any quotes? No. And who cares what Bill Maher says? Who cares what Bill Maher says? Okay? Nobody. He's irrelevant even to atheists at this point. So, what is this conspiracy theory about? Folks, what is it not about? Exclamation point. Okay, he's being very folksy right now. I feel like he's quite angry when he's writing this. This is my theory, folks. What is this conspiracy theory? Folks, what is it not about? This idea of the heliocentric cosmology is shoved down our throats from our earliest age and controls everything in our society. No, it doesn't. The laws, the traffic laws, are part of our society. The side you have to drive on you have to drive on the right side of the road in the US, and you have to indicate before you turn. That's part of our society. That is not controlled by the heliocentric cosmology. Tax law is not controlled by the heliocentric cosmology. Pretty much all culture is not controlled by heliocentric cosmology. This is just you trying to cram all your confusion about the world into one explanation. It makes no sense. Oh, and now we're on point 10. That was apparently point 9. Point 9 started way up here first we have to understand history and the nature of human conduct. Oh, he's done that now. Understanding history and the nature of human societies and governments. Apparently, it is that either people are right and read the Bible and control their daughters, or they are monsters who destroy everything. That is his conclusion, it seems. Okay, this is fantastic. 10. This massive psyop, which massive psyop? Oh, the whole, no, what? Was made possible by Operation Paperclip, with the establishment of NASA being built from the ashes of the Third Reich, the Vatican being the main usher. Meanwhile, in reality, NASA is an aeronautics and space division, which was built based off the rocket technology being developed in World War II. Yes, it was first developed by the Nazi regime, a rocket. But that doesn't mean that using a rocket makes you a Nazi. That's, again, just one of those idiotic logical inversions, which you keep doing. Nazis use rockets, therefore all rockets are Nazis. Come on now, grow up. Ay. And the Vatican being the main usher. Fine, whatever. The chief Nazi scientist ushered here to America. Ushered by the evil somebodies. By the Vatican. Oh, it says, oh, I see. The Vatican sent the chief Nazi scientist to America. It was Werner von Braun. That is so badly spelled. Dude, when you're writing a book, at least look up how the guy's name is spelled. Everything about that, except the font, is wrong. Werner von Braun. I can't believe that. You've heard this spoken, apparently, but you've never seen it written. That is such a smoking gun of your sort of fake literacy, fake sort of erudite understanding of things. You've heard this guy's name spoken, Werner von Braun, and you just assume that's how it's spelled, but you've never read that name in print. That's interesting. Also embarrassing for you, obviously, but we knew that. The mission was to further develop the Jesuit Enlightenment psyop developed at least at the earliest 17th century. Descartes, Hobbes, and Spinoza were all chained by Jesuits. Shut up about the Jesuits, Jesus. Hobbes being influenced by Descartes, whatever. And here comes the Enlightenment of philosophers. This is interesting. The zeitgeist narrative that the Bible is a plagiarization of pagan philosophy is apparently the primary objective of the Enlightenment philosophers of Descartes, Hobbes, and Spinoza. I see. I thought Zeitgeist was a bad documentary made in 2009 or something, but there we go. Apparently it's hundreds of years old. No, it's not. There's nothing special about the human race. Is that a primary objective? How's that an objective? That's just an opinion, isn't it? Okay. The universe was not governed by God. Ooh, we're not allowed to write that word. The universe is not governed by God, but mechanistic scientific laws. That is true. The point 3 is Enlightenment philosophy. The universe is bigger than we think, and there are alien races. That is not Enlightenment philosophy at all. Because of our preceding points, there's no better way to use your time than pursuing the pleasures of the flesh. No! You really think that list of 5 includes what Enlightenment philosophy is? Like, Enlightenment philosophy, one part of it is point 3. All the rest of it is nonsense and stuff you just added onto it just to sort of annoy yourself. And you are so annoyed about this pleasure of the flesh thing. Okay, this is exactly what we're faced with today. Are we? Not really. And this psyop about the universe being bigger than we think and their alien races has to be the work of the infamous Area 51, which is apparently also Descartes and Hobbes and Spinoza were involved in Area 51. Does time not matter to you? Does it matter that these people have been dead for hundreds of years before Area 51 was founded? Does that not matter at all? Apparently not. It is no surprise then that the Hebrew word nasha means to deceive. So? Evidence of the conspiracy. Okay, so because we find a Hebrew word nasha, which is not NASA, by the way, it's nasha, that means to deceive. So what is your thoughts here? You think that we have these Jesuit priests who apparently love Hebrew, and they're thinking, okay, we're going to trick the world now. So the Vatican's going to send Werner van Braun to America to sort of start NASA, or start some agency which fools the world into thinking the Earth is round, even though the Earth already was round in everybody's imaginations at this time. They're going to make this, and they have this meeting. Like, what are we going to call it? And they say, let's call it to deceive in Hebrew. That's way nobody will ever know we're trying to deceive people. And somebody else at the meeting would be like, look, Josh, is that a good idea? Like, should we really call ourselves the deceivers? Is that a good thing? Yes, they are too stupid and too brainwashed to notice. And Josh is like, and everyone like, Josh, please, are you sure? And he said, yes, because I'm a Jesuit and I decide, and I keep my daughters in a box. And the people will be like, oh, okay, Josh, clearly you are part of the first group who needs all the power, so we will call it NASA. End of meeting. Okay, so this is apparently evidence of the conspiracy. That a word sounds like another word is evidence of the conspiracy. Can I do something like that? Socket sounds like rocket. And a socket is something that you put objects into. And that sounds like sex to me. So clearly rockets have something to do with the sexual revolution. Evidence of that conspiracy. Is that how we do things? Okay, I could do that all day. Okay, 11 to 20. So what is the evidence that NASA is deceiving us? Okay. Now, point 1. This is so confused. Apollo 11 used deception and lies to convince us that they made it into outer space, when in fact they used deliberate deception. Oh, here we go with this idiotic documentary, If Anything Happened on the Way to the Moon, which has been debunked. And if you use that as a source, you have embarrassed yourself completely. So who cares about you? And on the other hand, we have so much evidence that Apollo 11 did not use deception and lies, and you've just been bamboozled by a conspiracy theory, as always. Full stop, in the middle of everything. It is no surprise, then, that the original tapes of the moon landing were erased as exposed by Reuters. Yes, they got lost. Reading the article, okay, maybe I shouldn't go so quickly across that. It's the original tapes, they're telemetry data of the moon landing. They're gone. I mean, when it's said like this, it sounds like the sort of original videotapes of like footage, but it's telemetry data that got lost. And I completely agree that it is a shocking loss that we lost the telemetry data of the original moon landing, it would have been great to have. You could use it to reconstruct what was going on. It's not video footage. Let's just be very clear about that. It's not that. And it was lost because it was erased. And it was erased because it was really expensive to have tapes. And even though NASA gets $52 million a day, it's not enough to cover the costs. Because they have a lot of costs. And they have to choose something, and they chose to delete the moon landing telemetry data, which to us now seems absurd because data storage is so cheap that you never delete anything. But then data storage was really expensive, and it sucks. I mean, yes, of course it sucks, but it's not, whatever. It doesn't prove anything. It's just one of those things that happen. Okay, moon rock given to Holland by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin is fake. Yes, it wasn't given to Holland by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. It was given to Holland by some diplomat, and it was a fake. It was embarrassing. It was a piece of petrified wood, sure. But again, logical fallacy. Just because one of these moon rocks somehow managed to end up in a museum, even though it wasn't a real moon rock, that doesn't mean that all the other moon rocks are fake. You have to look at them. You can't just by saying, oh, that one's a fake, so everyone's a fake. It's nonsense. Again, as always. Oleg Olejnik and Chris Caldwell don't know work in this field. Whatever. Number 2. The pictures of the Earth supposedly taken by Apollo astronauts have been proven to be fake as well. In a NASA article, The Science of the Moon, NASA published a picture supposedly from the Apollo 17 mission of the Earth from the Moon. Yet, Rob Skiba pointed out if you raise the levels of that picture, you'll see evidence of a collage image. See? No. What you see here is a compression artifact. Because you took the picture from an article, right? And the article has been published on the web, and on the web they use compressed images like JPEG or whatever it is, and JPEG has a certain amount of compression algorithms, and they subdivide areas into squares. And I'm not even going to go into the details, but it's a lot easier and it stores a lot less data if you look at the differences from the average value of a pixel. Instead of just the pixel values in themselves, because those numbers are usually lower, but it does cause compression artifacts. You've seen this on YouTube videos. If it's buffering badly or the bandwidth drops, you'll suddenly see squares everywhere around people. That does not mean they've been copied and pasted into the video. It just means the compression works this way, and that's what you see here. So that's just it just doesn't understand how computers work with images. So Rob Skiba has just embarrassed himself there, of course. ODD proved the same thing with this image of the L Rock Levittown looking over the limb. I have no idea what that photo is, but that looks incredibly fake. I would need to look into that, but the whole thing looks fake. I mean, I don't think that is a NASA image at all. I sadly can't follow this link, so I'm just going to have to leave that as saying I would look into that, but it really does not look like a NASA image at all. At all. For one thing, there are shadows on the moon, and this is a purely fully lit, illuminated Earth. That means that the sun must be behind the viewer, yet the shadows are going that way. So that's not a real image. Point 3. Astronauts aboard the ISS have been shown to be wearing some kind of harness and wiring system to portray the appearance they're floating in space. Chris Hadfield caught with wires hanging from his back in the middle of an interview. Is that those things there? Okay, so how do you explain the way they can just spin around and just move through tunnels and round corners and stuff with harnesses? Are you going to explain that? No, you're just going to take one frame from a video and just assume that those little things are wires. Are you just going to do that? Okay. So basically just selective cherry picking like crazy. Fine. Tim Peake was caught in front of a blue grid chroma key, similar to the ones used by Aura Visual Set Technologies. Yeah, see, if you look behind, it's not a chroma key. This is just, a blue grid. And you can find these videos on YouTube, with the blue grid. He has the grid because he's throwing a ball around, and it's like a little science experiment, and the grid helps us track the ball. If you look behind the grid, you can see the ISS. You fools. If you're saying that the blue grid chroma key, there's no such thing as a blue grid chroma key, by the way. If you really think that this is the chroma key thing is made to simulate the ISS, why is the ISS pictured behind it then? And why can you find the videos of these guys in front of the screen? And why, by the way, would NASA fake everything and then roll an ex-president right in front of a really obvious fake screen and film it and put it online? Why would nobody notice this? How can NASA both be the most perfect fakers in the world and still make idiotic mistakes like this? Why can you not see that there is another explanation to this, you idiot? The footage of the landing SpaceX rocket clearly looks like CGI. Who cares what you think it looks like? It's not. You can go and see it. See, this is this is just so lazy. It looks CGI to me, so la 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 la, I don't want to see reality. Who cares what you think? In an interview with Scott Kelly, Kelly's arm motion clearly reveals that ISS footage is a product of special effects production. Fine, I can't look at that right now, but I'm pretty sure what you see is a bandwidth glitch where you suddenly lost a few frames and it just jumps from one area to the other. This happens in all live streaming videos sometimes, and you never complain when it happens on your own live stream videos. So why would you complain now? I know why you would, because it fits your narrative. The Chinese Shenzhou 7 launch was clearly fake and exposed by the Epoch Times for it. Oh, the Epoch Times. Such a plausible source. In the video footage, we clearly see a bubble rising out of the astronaut's helmet. Whatever. Footage of the STS-118 space shuttle mission always shows signs of manner of fraud, with the man of scuba gear appears in the middle of the footage. Where? Where's the man with scuba gear? And why would the hell would you have a man with scuba gear swimming around in this underground tank, which is supposed to trick people into thinking it's space? How would you not? Why are they so stupid? Like, how hard is it to not ask the guy to stop swimming around while they're filming? I mean, Jesus. The images NASA published, supposedly from a camera aboard the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Deep Space Climate Observatory, supposedly a million miles away, also appears to be CGI as the clouds do not move. Of course they don't move at that scale, you moron! Do you think that the scale of the clouds that you are looking at in the sky are the size of the clouds you can see on that picture? Those clouds are thousands of miles long. These are huge weather systems. How quickly do you think the atmosphere moves? If you needed those to move, the winds would be intensely huge. And again, if it was CGI, how hard is it to make the clouds move? NASA flatly admits that globe images are composite CGI images. No, they don't. And they even go into detail how they make those. Yes, the Blue Marble 2.0 is a composite image made from data from satellites. It's not CGI, but it's a composite image. That one is put together into one image based on data taken from various satellites. But not all images of the globe are composite CGI. Yet again, you are making the mistake that one rock is fake, therefore all rocks are fake. One image is a composite image, therefore all images are CGI. Use your logic. This composite image uses a number of swathes. Yeah, we know this. A composite image is not a photograph reader. Is that supposed to be a comma there, or are you saying it's not a photograph reader? What they just admitted to is that the image is CGI. No, they say that it's a composite image based on reality, based on data. It's just visualized data. What's the problem? NASA goes even more detail, yada, 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 with how they do it. Yes. You can even see how the size of North America has changed so radically through the years. No, it doesn't change radically through the years. This is a field of view thing, you idiot. If you go closer to a ball, you can see less of its surface. Don't you get that? Don't you understand this? The closer you are to a sphere, the less of the surface you can see. So if you expand both of those things to the same size, then of course things are going to look bigger on the one where you're closer. So you're closer to the Earth in this picture than you're in this one. Zoom into a globe with a camera, not zoom in, but move closer to a globe while filming it with the camera, and you'll see exactly what you see here. Why don't you even try these things? I've been going for almost an hour and a half, and I'm getting really frustrated by this idiot now. Now you must ask yourself, why would NASA need to make these composite images if they really had these satellites far from Earth? Well, again, the reason they do this is because that satellite is not far enough away from Earth to take a full picture. But some of them are. That's why. Many will in despair point me to the very realistic looking footage from the ISS, for which I will point out that the documentary on the making of the movie Gravity, which is also very realistic looking footage. So again, one thing is fake, therefore everything else is fake. It's the same logical fallacy over and over and over and over again. Do I really have to go on? Okay, that was chapter 1. I'm gonna stop here. I'll do chapter 2 at some other point. Bye.